Okay, let's start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Our webinar is on achieving jurisdictional sustainability, how community-based forest management support land tenure and forest positive goals. This webinar is organized by the Tropical Forest Alliance with the Coalition for Sustainable Livelihoods, including Conservation International, Forum Konservasi Lesser of FKL. Thank you very much for being here. Before we start, I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining this webinar. This webinar is organized under what we call the Jurisdictional Action Network. This is a community hosted by the Tropical Forest Alliance that includes practitioners from civil society, companies, donors, and other groups interested in advancing the use of landscape and jurisdictional approaches to achieve sustainable land use at scale. The sustainability goals that we want to achieve here are holistic from the perspective of environment, like reducing deforestation, promoting restoration of degraded ecosystems. We also look at economic, including how to improve local livelihoods, and also social, which includes respect for human rights and making sure that community rights are met and respected. So we are really excited to welcome the Coalition for Sustainable Livelihoods, CSL, to highlight examples of their work to secure land tenure and rights through the use of community-based forestry and social forestry as part of a wider efforts to achieve sustainability at district scale while improving community and smallholders' livelihoods. Examples that will be highlighted in this webinar will come from Tapanuli, Selatan in North Sumatra, and also from Aceh Tamiang in Aceh, Indonesia. Just to introduce you a little bit of CSL, CSL is a place-based platform that drives collective action and investment to advance shared sustainable development goals of government, private sector, and civil society across North Sumatra and Aceh. All our speakers here are part of CSL, members and supporters of CSL, and there are many more organizations being part of the Coalition for Sustainable Livelihoods. This webinar is the first of a series of global and local dialogues that CSL will run periodically. We are happy to introduce the speakers that join us today. We have Putra from Conservation International. We have also Bang Rudi Putra from Forum Konservasi Lesser or Lesser Conservation Forum. And we have Prasojo from Unilever, who also have been like a key supporter of Coalition for Sustainable Livelihoods. We will start with brief presentations from CI and FKL, and followed by comments from Unilever, and then we will have a brief guided discussion around the key challenges and successes of using community-based forestry and social forestry to secure land tenure in the framework of sustainability at district scale. But of course, we welcome your participation. Please feel free to put your questions and comments either in the Q&A box, or also you can put it in the chat box. So without further ado, I think I will hand over to Mbak Fitri for your presentation.
Thank you, Mbak Leonie. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fitri Hasibuan. I work for CI. And today I would like to share with you the works that we are doing in South Tapanuli, as Mbak Leonie mentioned previously in the opening. So yeah, it's one of our work or activity that leading to achieving the sustainability at jurisdiction level. So maybe the next slide, please. So before we start talking specifically more details on what we are doing at the pilot side, maybe a little bit of background about South Tapanuli. So South Tapanuli is one of the CSL district. Leonie also mentioned about that. This district alone has more than 60% of forest cover. So forest area, so I think to be exact, about 63 or 64%. So so Tapanuli is also part of the Batang Toru. If you know about Batang Toru forest, it's the only home of the Tapanuli orangutan that was declared like 2 years ago as a new species. So for this specific discussion, we will share about our work, and not in the Batang Toru, but the other part of the other forest part of the South Tapanuli, which is in Batang Angkola. So the Batang Angkola forest, it has more than 30,000 hectares, and is the last remaining lowland forest of the Angkola ecosystem. So Angkola ecosystem is one of the critical ecosystem in the southern part of North Sumatra. It's a home also for several endangered species, including like Sumatran tiger, tapir, and the pangolin. So the village that we use as a pilot is the Binasari. So it's very small, the red box here. So Binasari community is one of the community, like majority of the community here planted palm oil, including the Binasari. So the Binasari community has been planting palm oil since early 90s. And this area is, even though it's declared as government zone forest area, but it's highly degraded due to expansion of agriculture, including palm oil and other commodities like banana, rubber, and so on. When we look at what is the driver of this expansion, it's basically because of the limited livelihood option. And on the other side, the law enforcement from the forest management or authority is also lacking. And like Binasari is pretty remote. It's quite difficult to access from Padang Sidempuan, which is the main town, like 3 to 4 hours driving. So, but with a very like a challenging road like trip, so it's pretty difficult to access, and it also one of the reason why this village or this community receive like minimum support from the government. Next slide, please. So when we talk about how we, for this topic, how we address land tenure, improve livelihood, and improve forest management in this like very complex situation with the people, the need of the people to have like a better livelihood, better well-being, but on the other side, we need the like better management of the landscape, including the forest area. So at CI, we used an approach called conservation agreements. So like conservation agreement, I can explain, as it explained here, like it links with social forestry program, how it links, so I can say a little bit more about that. So for those who not yet familiar with conservation agreement, what is conservation agreement? So conservation agreement is a negotiated agreement in which communities commit to do conservation actions, to meet to conservation actions, and in exchange, they receive benefits to support their sustainable livelihood. For example, in Binasari, the community receives some training, including like smart patrol training, a composting training, a grafting technique training, and so on. So those like will improve, like this is kind of like an enabling condition for the community to implement social forestry as well. And conservation agreement is an exclusive collaborative multi-stakeholder process. So there's a lot of negotiation and discussion within during the process. So for example, last year when we processed the conservation agreement here in Binasari, it took us about a year to get to the agreement sign. So we start introducing the concept to the community with the FMU, the local forest authority in late 2009 and 2017, and we managed to sign the agreement in 2018 because we want to have something like more inclusive. So it takes a lot of times, a lot of meeting, a lot of negotiation. But yeah, I think it's really critical. This is important that we had like consent from the majority of the community there. And in this conservation agreement, the community also receive benefits, like a direct benefits. Training, it's is part of the capacity building. It's also the benefit, but they also receive some other direct benefits. For example, seedlings, like a durian seedlings in this case, and they also receive some wages as they are doing patrolling and monitoring. So they receive patrolling wages or monitoring wages as they spend like a few days to do that. And how it links to social forestry. So we, as I mentioned before, it's a tool that that links to social forestry. It will enable people to build the capacity of the people to implement the social forestry. So once the idea is to have kind of like readiness. So once the community have been familiar, have been engaged in conservation agreement, and they have that like ownership, they have the proud of their forest area and know how to do that, like patrolling and sustainable forest harvesting or sustainable management of forest area. It's a good like a basic skills for them to manage the social forestry. As it mentioned here, it's like social forestry basically about improved forest management, as mentioned before, like the skill of the community doing patrolling. It will help them to improve the forest management. Is about social forestry is about land tenure. So it allows them to access a forest area in a long, like 35 years, for example, from under the current policy, and it also helped them to diversify their livelihood. So this is what how we see the connection between the conservation agreement and the social forestry, and both contribute, can support the commitments of the forest positive outcomes. And I'd like to thanks to our supporters, donors, including Unilever, who support us in this project and make this like a program happens. So this, and the last slide, please. And this is just some photos that show the example. So one of it is the agreement sign between the forest management unit, which is the forest authority of the area, the local community, and a CR representative and other higher government official like sub-district and traditional leaders and also religious leaders. And these are some activities that we are doing, camera trapping, and also nursery that all involve communities. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Maybe I'll let my colleague, Bang Rudy, to continue with his. Bang Rudy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Rudy Putra. I work for the local NGO in Aceh, Indonesia, named Leuser Conservation Forum, or FKL. So this is one of our project in Leuser ecosystem for community-based restoration as the solution for the nature and people in the Leuser ecosystem, specifically in Aceh Tamiang district. So this is collaboration work between the Forest Management Unit and Leuser Conservation Forum, IDH and another donor, including the Unilever. Thanks for Unilever. And so next slide, please. So this is Leuser ecosystem, 2.6 million hectare forest left in Southeast Asia. This is the largest remaining forest in Southeast Asia, in northern Sumatra. Beautiful forest and very important for the wildlife and biodiversity, because this is the last hope for many species in the world, including the 4 charismatic species like orangutan, tiger, Sumatran rhino, and elephant. Next. And Leuser ecosystem consists several forest types. This is national park and protected forest, production forest, wildlife reserve, and also community land inside of the in Aceh province and North Sumatra. But if we can see another map, the distribution of the biodiversity is not only inside of the conservation area, like a national park, but especially in the lowland forest in Northeast Leuser ecosystem, or in the swamp forest. So that's why conservation area is not enough, and we need the larger area we call user ecosystem. This is very important. Next. So this is the happen in user ecosystem in last many decades. We lost so many forests. We estimate around 20% of the forest in user ecosystem destroyed by the many illegal activities, including like a palm oil. This is mostly by the palm oil, the largest threat for the user ecosystem. And the impact when the destroyed forest is the massive flooding around the user, specifically in Aceh Tamiang district. So in 2006, this is the biggest flooding in this district, and make significant destroy for the district. So that's why start from this flooding, we work together with the local communities to identify what happened in their forest. And we talked with many parties, including the forest management units or the community, local government, and also with the police. So next. And after many months working together, finally, we got the solution together with the local authorities to cut down illegal palm oil inside of the user ecosystem. This is illegal, it's not legal. So they encroach the forest, user, and planting with the palm oil and make a significant forest loss in user. And also, we planting with the seedling, we prepare the seedling. This is for the local communities because we know local communities is very important. They can restore this forest by them, and we only prepare like a training and a little seedling, and the land is still managed by the local communities under of the permission from the forestry department in Aceh. So we work together with them, develop the team, develop the group of the farmer, and train them with the organic and seedling preparing. And local very understand this is forest is we have to restore the forest, and also they still manage the land for their economic in the future. Next. And this is one example. The location of the eggs of the palm oil in 2009, we shut down all the palm oil there. This is illegal. And then we leave by the natural recognition. We can see another photos beside. This is forest growth very fast. This is by the natural, but this natural is not enough. So that's why we have to work together with the local communities in the periphery or the boundary of the forest. So local communities planting with the many species like a durian or the dragon blood, jengkol. This is a favorite fruit in Indonesia, or the petai and sugar palm and many others. And the impact right now, the communities already start to harvest from this forest with the high economic impact. This is more than 40 times of the palm oil compared with the palm oil result in 1 hectare. Agroforestry is more economically than the palm oil. So so from this slide, I want to say this is the restoration must be simple. It's not complicated. If we can work together with the local and with the authorities also, especially with the government, we can restore all of the forest in the ecosystem. Next. Yeah, this is about the collaborative. We need to together, and we optimists, we can save remaining forests or destroy forests everywhere in Indonesia or in the world. Because if we can work together, that means we have the power and we have the many resources to save our forests. thanks for everyone, especially for the donors who are working with, together to save the leisure ecosystem. Thank you. And Bang Rao, can you explain about how private sectors make a significant roles for forests in the world? Thank you.
Hi. So, no, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And also, Pak Rudi, Bu Fitri, thank you for the presentations. You know, like I know we connect quite frequently on these projects, but it's also always encouraging and also exciting to see progress and the work that Conservation International and Forum Konservasi Luser does on the ground. You know, so I guess on some of the questions that I've been kind of asked to answer, I guess it's the role again and the interests of private sectors. And I think that really thinking about this, you know, our role is to support the government in their programs on these efforts in the forest management units, existing programs that they have, and also to support implementing organizations like Conservation International and Forum Konservasi Luser. So I think, you know, as a large buyer of oil palm oil, mostly derivatives for some of our products, and also the largest buyer of certified palm oil, right? I think that we've been really thinking about how to make our supply chain more sustainable, but also the need to go beyond our supply chain for greater sector transformation. And I think that approaches, we call them now jurisdictional approaches, right? And ways to work in production landscapes in order to provide these positive impacts of where our forest footprint is something that is much discussed in Unilever and other companies. So I think how we can create more positive impacts for the people and planet, not only just preventing harm, not only cleaning our supply chain, but also increasingly, more importantly, also how can companies like Unilever see these types of approaches as their overall corporate strategy and also brand identity. So an example of this within Unilever, I guess, is with the new climate and nature funds and commitments that we have over the next decade. And you know, the commitment, quite ambitious, is to protect and try to regenerate 1.5 million hectares of land, forests, and oceans, supported also by commitment of a 1 billion euro fund to support these. And I think that, you know, these programs that you just saw in the presentations are elements of what we could do collectively, like Bang Rudi said, on how we can achieve these targets for Unilever and other companies. So supporting social forestry, especially when Bu Fitri were talking about achieving land tenure and improving livelihoods, definitely is something that's very important in terms of the forest restoration projects that we have. How we can try to eliminate encroachment of illegal palm oil into our supply chain. That's also very important. And I think that one of the slides that Bang Rudi also showed with regards to the benefits of the landscapes and protecting forests around it, but also lowering risk of floods due to further degradation of forests is also why I think these approaches are very much worth supporting.
Great. Thanks a lot, Rauf. Thanks also to Bang Rudi and Mbak Fitri. We have already several questions, but I think there were two questions that I think are quite directly related to the previous presentation, might be useful to answer first before we go to our discussion about the success and challenges. There's a question about how do you differentiate between legal and illegal palm oil, and how do you compensate local communities for revenue loss for cutting illegal palm oil? I'm wondering if Bang Rudi, if you could start answering that, and of course Mbak Fitri and Rauf, if you want to jump in later, you're most welcome.
Yeah, this is the some illegal palm oil owned by the local communities. But when we introduce about the impact of the deforestation and how we can have to restore the forest, but we also talk about the benefit for them, because in that area, the local community still manage the area. For the temporary, they can planting with the like the vegetable or the bananas or the lemon, and then combine with the tree of durian or another. So this is also a big impact to them. So only few days or less than 1 month, they still get the benefit. They can get the benefit from the vegetable in that land. And also the main point, the main driver in the deforestation in Tamiang is not by the local, but by the big like including the companies or the rich person, or they encroach the forest, and then we work together with the stakeholder, including with local communities, and then we success to take over the land and restore this area for the local communities. So this is also added value for the local communities, for their livelihood.
Right. Thanks a lot, Bang Rudy. I think it's important to highlight that encroachment may not be only done, it's not immediately. That means if it's there encroachment, it's local communities, right? There might be, like you said, other actors behind them, and that's you need to carefully determine first who are doing the action, right? But Fitri, I saw that you went off mute. Like, do you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Leonie. Yeah, maybe almost the same with Bang Rudy. So we just don't want to give incentive to the illegal palm oil, but that's the fact, and that's the fact, and that's the problem, the issue that we face on the ground. For example, in the agreement that we have, the community commits that they will not expand their plantation agricultural activity in the other parts of the forest area. And to compensate that commitments, there is a lot of things I mentioned before. There was some training, but not only about training, but supporting them for social forestry. For example, we are helping them to establish a group, the forest farmer group, and helping them with all of the documentation for the social forestry, even though we are still in the process, but they are now half of the process, and it will allow them to have legal access and to manage the forest area in a sustainable way. They may not be able to expand the palm oil, but they have like other livelihood options, and we provide them with some training how they can utilize the forest area in a sustainable way.
Thank you, Mbak Fitri. So I would like us to go to the discussion, because I think the questions here are also asking questions about challenges and successes, right? So I'm wondering if both Mbak Fitri and Bang Rudy, you can provide, you can highlight what are the key challenges that you face, and what are the successes. And I think Mbak Fitri, there's a specific question about what's the mechanism that you put in place to connect farmers with markets as part of the success story, right? And maybe Bang Rudy, later, there's the question from Popo here about what's the formula to bring local actors to want to become main actors for restoration. So maybe I'll start with Mbak Fitri first about the challenges and successes, and also answering that question around link to market first.
Yeah, thanks, Mbak Leonie. So the main challenges is the community is isolated, and they are not has a lot of exposed to the external parties. So when we arrive as a Conservation International, they say, "What is Conservation International? What you're doing? Are you going to kick us out of our area, or what it is?" So they it's really hard to get to engage with the community at the beginning because their perception of conservation is kicking people out and it's not safe for them to work with us. So it, as I mentioned earlier, like it took us a year just to get accepted by the community, a lot of negotiation and keep coming back and forth with the question, what are you doing and what is your intention, why you are helping us and so on and so forth. And we keep dealing with that question. And in terms of the success, so finally with the commitments, and we started with like small like activities just to build trust. So for our beginning, it's we agree with the team. It's hard to force people with something really big because they're not used to. Let's start with something simple and small. And yeah, that's the success, building trust. It's showing them that we are here to collaborate with them, to find a solution to their problem, to their challenges. And bringing the Forest Authority and the FMU, and the FMU established the like community ranger and legalize, like acknowledge the community ranger, and community see like their pride of their forest, and the acknowledgement of the Forest Authority is also something like that they are proud of. And we can see like significant reduction of the encroachment, like mainly in the like for the patrolling route. So still found some small encroachment, but when we confirm with the community, they said that it's not from the community, and the patrolling team also confirmed they are not from the community, they are from other community, and that's the challenges. So there are some like as it is a landscape, a huge landscape, and not only one community. I think the challenge is we should engage with a larger community, and we should empower the capacity or building the capacity of MU to manage like stronger like a patrolling team, and have like a clear a system, like a good system that they can continue the patrolling work, like to continue that work. And related to the market, as I said, it's still at the beginning, but the team already built kind of like a business plan, how they are, the seedling that the community get benefit is durian seedling, and they also, we help them to build kind of like a business or like a model, how they will market this like a durian, maybe in like a 3 or 4 years, but we haven't get there yet. But we have already been thinking about how to market the products soon. On the other hand, it's the community also produce like a composting, and there are neighboring community that buying composting from them. We encourage them to use the compost for themselves to increase the productivity on their existing legal farmland. But they also, we encourage them also to sell to the neighboring community to help their the livelihood. So maybe we will keep you updated for the next step if we have managed to get to the level that in the producing stage, and share more about the market.
Thanks a lot, Mbak Fitri, and thanks for there are more questions coming in. So if people can, the panelists can also type an answer while we continue the discussion here, because I would like to turn to Bang Rudy to talk about the challenges and the success, right? Because I think that there's the 2 questions here related to the challenge. One is from Bintran from Triple Line. What are different land use that make forest protection restoration more challenging? So that's from the challenge part, but also on the success part is how did you manage to bring the local actors as local people as the main actors for restoration?
So the many challenges. The first is about the perspective. So when we first cutting down the illegal palm oil, and everyone said, "Oh, the palm oil is useful because even though they are invasive, they also the tree and as the carbon storage and very useful for the economy." So this is how we can change their brain of including local and also to government. And also another challenge is about the conservation, even though this is very cheap restoration. But we have to consistently for the 3 years minimum, because for the first year, this is we prepare local communities, talk with them, and then preparing the seedling and other and group of the local communities. So this is very important step, including the permit from the government. If the people, local people, should not realize that this useful project, and usually the project will be failed. That's why working together with the local communities is very important to make them trust us. And the second year, this is for the planting the tree, and then how we can manage the, including the preparing the land, and the next year is to manage the restoration area. So because of U10 ecosystem, we identify around the almost 90,000 hectare forest loss and destroy or destructive area in U10. So this is we need to big resource to restore all of the forest. Even though we know this, the most cheaper restoration is by the natural, because natural can restore by themselves. But if without the local communities involved, this is difficult, because there is no program there for the livelihood, and then the local communities will move to another area to encroach another forest. So this is not balanced. So that's why we have to stop them to encroach the forest, and they can manage the area in the boundary for their livelihood. So when the first time our project in Tamiang, this is not so many people believe this project will success, but we still keep continue, because we know we need to champion. We identify the very strong person, informal local leaders in that village and every village, and we work together to make that trust us, and start with the only 5% of the local communities. After this full voluntary success, and then another local communities will see and then join for this project. And then today we work with almost 1,000 families in Aceh Tamiang to restore more than 3,000 hectare forests. And yes, the main focus how we can work together with the local. This is very important. They are doer, they are actor, they are the implement for the restoration project in the U10 ecosystem.
Thanks a lot, Mahrudi. I think it's both you and Mbak Fitri emphasize the importance of building trust and having consistent engagement with the local communities, and how time-consuming it is. But the idea is that it's then well placed and that it can be sustained long-term, right? It's not just project-based, that it will go away after the project is completed. I would like to move to another question, and Rauf, I'm wondering if we can turn to you. There is a question here about how does Unilever support social forestry, as you mentioned, support to FMUs. If you can provide more details on that.
So it's through partners for this one, right? In terms of the programs that we're doing in Tapanuli, Selatan, right? We have in North Sumatra is a very important landscape for us. One of our factories there, Unilever Oleochemicals, is located in North Sumatra, and our suppliers are around the area as well. So it is definitely a production landscape where we source our materials from. In surrounding areas, and when we go to Tapanuli Selatan, you'll see one of our suppliers, and also kind of the areas where definitely production is happening, and then protection is needed. And so this is where we partner then with Conservation International in identifying these areas. And actually then Bu Fitri there does a lot of the hard work with her team, right? In terms of when she was saying that it almost took a year to kind of communicate and really get clear, I would say, communications in terms of what wanted to be achieved, gaining the trust, and also I think for local communities to understand the benefits. And so in this partnership, right, is definitely the project implementers, local communities, areas where our suppliers are located, and then smallholder programs as well that we have there. And in this case, we are supporting the CI team financially.
Great, thanks a lot, Rauf. I want to move to the next sort of like section of our small discussion is around the opportunity to scale. And there's this one question here that's related to that. I guess I'll turn to Mbak Fitri first. But if you could highlight, Mbak Fitri, what's the potential sustainable business model that you see community can implement with social forestry scheme? And other than that, what other opportunities that you see in the near term that you would like to invite these our community of JA practitioners to take part of?
Yeah, thanks, Mbak Leonie. Yeah, in North Sumatra, the commitment from the government is very huge in terms of co-management of the forest area with the communities. The government allocated almost 500,000 hectares of forest area to be allocated to be work collaboratively, managed collaboratively with the local communities. And now the province only just achieved like 10% of that, which is like 50,000 hectares around that. And even though the permit or the license already provided to 50,000 hectares, only a few license or permits are effectively being implemented. So I think it's really an opportunity, huge opportunity to support community, to help the community, not only in like a Binasari, and there are a lot of like opportunity to help the community, and the government has provides the option, the scheme to do that. So yeah, it is huge. It's a big opportunity for everyone to collaborate together to help the community. And for example, in North Sumatra, the government also create the task force, a working group that will help to accelerate the progress of this social forestry in North Sumatra. So I think this task force is really important as a forum that we can share tools, share lesson learned, so everybody can learn from each other, and especially on the social forestry. And also for, I think it's CSL, as CSL also is I think it's a good opportunity to share a lesson learned through CSL. I think CSL organized like exchange, so we also are willing to share about our works and also learn from each other. Learn, for example, here from Rudy from Aceh Tamiang, who's been starting the work since 2008 or maybe before that. So yeah, I think it's a really it's an opportunity to scale up the progress.
Thanks, Mbak Fitri. Bang Rudy, what would be the areas of collaboration, the opportunities that you would like to invite this community to support you on?
Yeah. Because, like I said, we need to restore around the 90,000 forest area in U10 ecosystem. So this is the big area. It's impossible one organization can restore all. How much we need to our resource to restore it. So that's why collaboration is the key point, key work to if we want to restore. So this is not only for the donors, but also we need to working together with another NGOs or another group of the local communities. If they can restore by themselves, that's very important and very helpful for the ecosystem. So right now we work like this. The local communities can duplicate this program in another places in Leoser ecosystem. So this is very important and save our energy, save our funding, and the result is very good for the nature and for the local economy. And also the question about the market, yes, in the future, we'll be facing the problem with the market, but we believe the local consume still enough, even though with the lower price, but local will consume, will accommodate for this. But if we can identify like the company or the bigger market, that's very important and very helpful for the local product from this area. So I think this very important for us to think about this and preparing for the future conservation based on community.
Thanks, Bang Rudy. So it's replicating the same models elsewhere in Leoser and support to do that, and also like creating like new markets or bigger markets for the products from this area, right? Raouf, in terms of opportunity to scale, I mean, Unilever is doing a lot already, but we all see that the problems are much bigger. So then that's the beauty of landscape and jurisdictional approaches, right? It's not one actor doing stuff, you know, it's all of us working together. The role of the local government is key, the role of local communities is key, the role of implementers like FKL and CI is key, but support from private sector as well. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that, you know, how can the wider private sector, not just Unilever as a direct buyer, but also like more downstream or further away from the supply chains, but still using palm oil, right? How can they support and scale up these kind of approaches?
Well, definitely there is room for collaboration, like Bang Rudy said. They can't do it alone. Unilever cannot do it alone. We need to work in partnership. So just kind of looking at examples and where I spend my evening calls with is probably with also with you, Leonie, you know, in the consumer goods forums, where there is a discussion with like-minded companies, I think, within the Forest Positive Coalition to start engaging further in these landscapes engagements, you know, and I think that these discussions are at the CO level to the sustainability managers like myself, and it's been very encouraging and a learning process, I think, for me to see where each company is at on its journey on sustainability, its appetite for such approaches, understanding, right, on these approaches, but it's clear that there is an ambition to move forward, and I think that what we'll see hopefully soon is more companies willing to invest in these projects, willing to kind of explore how they can partner closely with organizations like FKL and CI on the ground. I feel that, you know, there's other projects that I'm managing. There's other that's within my organizations, but you know, the learnings I have in IDH and in Aceh with FKL and in CI are very different from the learnings that we're also doing forest restoration programs in Sabah, Malaysia, for instance, with WWF, right? So I think that it's very interesting, and I hope that through such forums like the Consumer Goods Forum and through perhaps smaller forums, that we can see more companies making commitments and also implementing those commitments that are related to these positive impacts for forest nature and supporting local communities. And I think that the social forestry approach and model provides a space where it is, supported by legal tenure from the government, provides that diversification of products as well to benefit those local communities.
Right. Thanks a lot. So we have like 7 minutes to go, but we still have like 3 questions online. So I'm a bit conflicted on how to move forward with it. But I think I would like to at least maybe to be able to answer 2 questions directly related to our conversation today. First is to Mbak Fitri, what are the timelines for conservation agreements? If you could just give quickly highlight, how long it takes.
Yeah, thanks, Leonie. It depends on the level of your relationship with the community. If you already have the relationship with the community, the agreement can be signed maybe within 3 or 6 months. But if it's like the first time you enter the community and the community is very like close-minded, they are isolated, it will take you like 1 year or even more. So it depends on it. And you for the implementation of the agreement, the commitments, we suggest to have it like a year first to see how like each party can meet the commitments, and it's kind of like a test before you continue with the longer commitment before you turn to social forestry. So we suggest to have like a 1 year just to test with the short term.
Great, thank you, Mbak Fitri. And there is a question to both you. What are key challenges in getting the social permit, the licenses itself? And I don't know, Bang Rudi, if you want to answer that.
Yeah, the main problem for the social forestry is not about the permit, but how the local communities can manage the land. In many areas, without the support from the NGOs or the partner or the government, there is no happen in the social forestry. So that's why the key point, how we can work together, NGOs and the local communities or the governments, to manage the social forestry area with the very strong group of the local community. So that's why in our strategy is not getting the permit from the social forestry, but we develop the local communities first, this group under of the one group, and then after they agree and they are know about the value of the conservation and to restore the forest, and then we work with the local government, especially forest management unit, to get the permit under of the Aceh government forest management unit. So and then after that they can manage the land, and then we submit to the we will submit to the Jakarta government as the hutan desa or the hutan kemasyarakatan. So this is the process, and we believe this will be success for the local communities after the group is strong.
Right.
This is my point.
Yeah, the key point is for the communities to manage, to have the capacity to manage it properly, right? Not just getting the permit and then not knowing what to do with it, right? Great. Well, thank you very much. I will give a 30 seconds last message. First I'll start with Mbak Fitri, and then Bang Rudi, and then ending up with Rauf. Mbak Fitri, 30 seconds. What's your last message to the group?
Thanks, Mbak Leonie. So I think the message is like protecting the forest. It needs like collaborative actions. Community is really key because they live there. We can just protect the forest and just neglecting the community. Work with the community and be patient with the process and be there, living there. It will help you to like fasten the process. Being part of the community is it's one of the approach to make the process faster. And yeah, be patient, and it takes a long time and it takes a lot of commitment and investment as well. So,
Great, thanks, Mbak Fitri. Bang Rudi?
I want to say that nature can restore by themselves. It's very easy and everywhere, including in the city, in Medan or everywhere. I saw that the evidence, the seedling can grow even though in the central of the city. So also in the forest, it's very easy because so many animal there, water, wind, and anything else. So, but my concern and our concern in Aceh, how restoration can get the benefit. Local communities can get benefit with the restoration or the social forestry. And this is not expensive, it's not difficult, but we only need consistency to work together with them. This is my point, Pak Leon.
Great, thank you, Bang Rudi. And Rao?
I would just say let's continue this journey. The partnership, the trust building from all sectors. I think there's promising results, and I think this is definitely a decade to implement and start working on our commitments and achieving those goals. So I very much hope that more our partners that are on this call or are speaking can do more. Especially, I hope companies like Unilever can do more. And I really look forward to be on this journey with you all.
Thank you. Well, we thank all of you, Mbak Fitri, Bang Rudi, Rao, for joining us as panelists. We will definitely, please do keep us updated on the journey of this social forestry, and then that we can learn together so we can accelerate, right? And not having to repeat mistakes. Everyone, thanks a lot for joining this webinar. We will have a recording that we will send to all of you. And if you need more resources to learn more about how to do this, how others are doing it, what we can learn from each other, please visit the JA Resource Hub. That's we put the address on the chat. Thank you very much. Next week we will have another webinar on Para, on the state of Para in Brazil. You've received the information already, and we will see you next time. Thank you all.
Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.